Abandoned at 62 due to cancer, my son's shocking words revealed the unexpected truth about love. Martha sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floral wallpaper, each bloom a reminder of the life she once lived. As a nurse, she had dedicated herself to tending to others, yet now she found her own heart heavy with betrayal. The walls felt closer than ever, the tiniest crack in her resolve revealed by the recent diagnosis of terminal cancer. The weight of betrayal settled on her like a thick, suffocating blanket. Her husband had walked out, abandoning her when she needed compassion the most, simply slipping away into the night as if love were something so easy to discard. And now, a creeping fear lingered in her mind. Would her son Daniel follow suit? As the days slipped by, the space between them grew further, an invisible chasm widened by ambition. Daniel's voice, once filled with admiration and love, echoed with urgency only as he shared his latest tech pitch or a new opportunity. She remembered their nightly discussions at the table, filled with dreams and laughter. Love and loyalty were the lessons she had pressed into his heart, but everything changed. Heart racing, she recalled the look in his eyes, the flicker of fear mingled with hope, yet now that very hope seemed to be swallowed by corporate ambitions. Martha felt lonely, as if she were fading into the background of her own life. The days turned into weeks, daylight became a mere backdrop to her growing anguish. Each moment without connection weighed her soul down further. A knot twisted in her stomach, each phone call going unanswered a silent testament to their drifting bond. What did it mean to be a mother now, when her son appeared to choose career aspirations over familial ties? Her hands trembled as thoughts spiraled in her mind, flipping from anger to despair. Would he abandon her too? Before she could gather her resolve, desperation propelled Martha to call Daniel for a serious talk. The kitchen table felt like a battlefield as he sat across from her, his phone a glowing barrier against the heartbreaking truths about to unfold. The urge to shield him began to crumble. "I've been feeling forgotten," she confessed, her voice a whisper, breaking under the weight of her emotions. "What do I mean to you now?" A wave of sadness washed over her, freezing their moment in the air. She could almost see the love they once shared slip away, and then it happened. Daniel leaned back, the look in his eyes shifting. "Mom," he revealed with a deep sigh, "I can't sacrifice my future for your past." The words struck like a blow, raw and powerful. Martha's heart sank, reeling from the realization that her teachings had become chains binding him to expectations he wrestled with. How could the very essence of love, loyalty, and family become a pawn in the ruthless game of ambition? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension coiled between them like a tightly wound spring, each moment steeped in unresolved agony. How had love turned into a battlefield? Martha's breaths grew irregular, heart racing as fear crept in, clawing at her resolve. Each laugh they once shared had transformed into a haunting reminder of what they had lost. The lessons she had imparted seemed to fizzle into nothingness, leaving her suspended between despair and hope. What did it mean to truly love and be loved, especially when the clock of her life was ticking away? Far from understanding, they stood on the edge of an emotional cliff, her heart aching for the connection slipping further from her grasp. Just when she thought they might find ground, doubt lingered between them like a heavy fog, waiting to swallow away all she had tried to teach. Time passed slowly, and the air was thick with unspoken words. Martha sat in the dim light of her living room, surrounded by the remnants of a life filled with purpose. Photographs of Daniel hung on the walls, each frame a testament to love, growth, and connection. Yet now, they felt like ghostly representations of a past that seemed increasingly unreachable. The silence was deafening, a stark reminder of the distance that had crept between them. After Daniel stormed out, an unsettling calm engulfed Martha. She avoided the comforting embrace of a book or the distraction of television. Instead, she replayed their conversation in her mind, dissecting the implications of Daniel's words. "Your past," she muttered to herself, anger bubbling to the surface. Did he really think she was stuck there, trapped in time, unable to see the world for what it had become? Samuel's betrayal had already shaken her sense of self. Now this? Would her son leave her too? Thoughts swirled relentlessly, haunting her with possibilities. With each beat of her heart, she felt more determined not to allow her life to be encapsulated by fear. Martha straightened up and wiped the tears from her cheeks. It was time to reclaim not just her identity but also her connection to Daniel. The next day, she padded through her house softly, searching for inspiration. A faint glimmer of hope ignited in her chest. A nurse by profession, she remembered that this was not the first time she had encountered emotional challenges. Patient care had taught her resilience, dealing with loss, and the need to adapt. She was a survivor. If she had faced death in various ways throughout her career, she could face the fracturing relationship with her only son. Martha took a deep breath and started her morning routine with an intensity she hadn't felt in ages. With singular focus, she decided that today would not be just another day of sorrow but a day of action. She designed a new plan, one that involved taking the first step toward mending their relationship. Writing had always been a refuge for her, a means of processing complex emotions. So, she found her favorite stationery and began drafting a letter to Daniel. With each written word, she poured out her heart. She expressed her hurt, not with the accusations that had filled their late-night conversations but with tenderness and understanding. She acknowledged his fears of being anchored by parental expectations and voiced her unwavering belief in his potential. The letter became a lifeline, a way to bridge the gap she longed to close. Later that evening, she drove to Daniel's apartment, the letter carefully folded in her hands. Her heart thudded against her chest, fluttering between hope and trepidation. Approaching the door, she hesitated. Memories flooded back, but she pushed them aside. She had to confront her vulnerability, to face the possibility of rejection once more. As she knocked, the weight of what she might encounter set in. This wasn't just about her feelings. It was a chance for Daniel to understand her perspective and for them both to redefine love, no longer a weapon forged by ambition but a path paved with mutual respect and acknowledgement. Daniel opened the door, surprise clouding his features. The tension between them radiated in the air. But there she stood, letter in hand, ready to leave vulnerability at his feet. "It's time to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. Oh, how she had yearned for this moment, and now it lay before her like an untouched canvas. As anticipation charged the air, Martha felt a flicker of warmth within her, a sense of empowerment, the promise of renewal. But she knew deep down that their conversation would not settle easily and that the journey to reconnecting would demand both courage and honesty from them both. If Daniel accepted her words, would she be ready to confront the truths buried beneath his ambitions? Or would their next conversation send her spiraling down a path she desperately sought to avoid? The door swung open, and Daniel's gaze darted from the letter in Martha's hands to her resolute expression. The moment crackled with an intensity that could not be ignored. It was as if time had frozen, each heartbeat echoing in the hollow spaces of unspoken words. "Mom, what's this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, the surprise morphing into something harder to decipher. Martha felt her resolve waver slightly at the sight of her son's uncertainty. She had rehearsed the words in her mind so many times, but standing here, the palpable distance felt even greater than it had moments ago. "It's a letter," she replied, steadiness creeping back. "I wanted to share what I've been feeling." "The last time we talked," he began, but the weight of earlier conversations hovered between them, thick and suffocating. She noticed his jaw tighten. He was preparing to retreat into the armor he donned in their previous confrontations. "I know," she said, anxious yet driven. "But I need you to listen this time, really listen." She lifted the letter slowly, allowing the warmth of her intention to seep into her words. "I wrote this because I want to understand you. I want you to know that I see you, not the expectations or dreams I might impose, but you." His eyes narrowed slightly, skepticism lacing his features. "You think this will change anything? A letter? It's not just words on paper, Daniel. It's an invitation to a conversation, a chance for us to face the truths behind our arguments." She shifted her weight, a habit born from years of nursing, an unconscious reminder to stand firm amidst the chaos of emotion. Daniel hesitated, peering into her eyes, and for a fleeting second, she wondered if he might grasp the fragility of their connection. Why should I believe anything will change? The residue of hurt bubbled back to the surface, fighting to snatch her voice away. Yet, amidst it all, something struck a chord within her. His question was not just anger, it was vulnerability disguised as bravado. She recognized the fear of failure that had plagued them both, an unacknowledged shadow that lingered in the wake of abandoned dreams. Because I am ready to let go of the past, she said with a sharpness that surprised even her. Not just for you, but for me. I can no longer cling to what we used to be, I need to know who we can be now. In that moment, Martha felt the undercurrents of her past choices surge forward. The journey to become a nurturing figure was fraught with challenges, yet here she stood, unearthing buried truths with each word she spoke. She realized that this was where her journey intertwined with Daniel's, both navigating the murky waters of their individual struggles while seeking the light of understanding above. Daniel's expression shifted from skepticism to contemplation, yet bricks still built a wall around his heart. It's not that easy, he finally said, the defensiveness in him slipping away, revealing the boy who had once sought her guidance before ambition and disappointment had clouded their bond. No, it isn't, she relented, softening. But staying paralyzed in this cycle isn't the answer either. I don't want to fight anymore, I want to grow together. The silence returned, but this time it felt pregnant with potential. He stepped aside, allowing her to enter, the threshold becoming a crossroads of emotions and memories, both past and present. The room was dimly lit, the weight of their history swirling like dust motes in the air. With unsteady steps, Martha followed him inside, the letter still clutched tightly in her grasp. This moment stood before her like a daunting cliff, demanding a leap into the unknown, a leap she was willing to take. But as Daniel lowered himself onto the edge of their familiar couch, a flicker of doubt questioned if he would be ready to share the darkness he kept hidden. Would they be able to confront the fears lurking in shadows before them? Or would the ghosts of their past actions pull them back from the precipice of renewal? Each breath felt heavier, thicker with the uncertainty that now surrounded them. Martha stepped forward, prepared to dive deeper, but inside, she braced herself for the turbulence that might follow. The open wound of their relationship begged for healing, yet not all scars could heal quickly, and the truth might be more complicated than either had anticipated. She took a deep breath. What do you really want, Daniel? The question hung between them, a stark challenge that could ignite or incinerate the fragile accord they sought to build. The moment of truth was approaching, and she felt her heart race in anticipation of the answer. What would he reveal when faced with the depths of his own ambition? Daniel's gaze flitted from the floor to the window, the light filtering through the curtains casting shadows that seemed to mirror his indecision. Martha watched him wrestle with the question she had laid bare, her heart pounding in sync with the anxious tightening in her throat. She felt raw, exposed, as if he were peeling back layers she had worked years to build. What do I want? He echoed, the words hanging in the air thick with uncertainty. His brow furrowed as he looked away, grappling with feelings that had long been buried beneath the weight of ambition, abandonment, and resentment. Martha waited, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the letter. She could sense the shift in him, the storm of confusion was giving way to clarity, but it was a precarious moment. I want to feel like I matter, Daniel finally admitted, his voice cracking under the strain of suppressed emotions. His confession shattered the tension, sending a cascade of warmth through Martha. It was a moment of vulnerability, a glimpse of the boy she had raised, the one she had fought so hard to support and protect. But his admission forced her to confront a truth she had been avoiding. She too had struggled with feeling significant among life's chaos. I never wanted you to feel like you didn't matter, she said, choosing her words with care. But in my efforts to help you succeed, I think I lost sight of what you truly needed from me. He shifted uncomfortably, and in that silence, Martha felt the gravity of their conversation pull them closer together. I thought if I achieved everything I was supposed to, I'd finally earn your love, he murmured. But I feel like a disappointment. Her heart sank at the realization that Daniel had been carrying this burden alone, shackled by the very expectations that were meant to guide him. You are not a disappointment, Martha asserted firmly. You are enough, simply as you are. I need you to believe that, too. As she spoke, she could feel her own defenses begin to erode. This conversation was not only about Daniel's struggles, it was her moment to admit her mistakes, her fears of inadequacy as a mother. Fragile moments like these demanded honesty and courage, and she was determined to rise to the occasion. "I'm scared," he finally confessed, his voice trembling. "Scared that if I step back and explore what I really want, I might let everyone down again." Embracing who you are does not mean letting anyone down. It's about finding your own truth, she encouraged, her thoughts racing ahead. "I've learned that growth isn't linear, it's messy and sometimes feels like walking through a forest blindfolded." There was a flicker of hope in Daniel's eyes, a fragile spark igniting within him. "So, where do we go from here?" he asked, a mixture of hesitation and curiosity threaded through his tone. Martha took a breath, realizing that they stood on a precipice together, ready to embark on a journey of mutual discovery. "We start by untangling those expectations, both mine and yours. We embrace the discomfort, talk about our failures, and redefine what this relationship means for us. I want to support you, but I want you to also lead this conversation." Daniel nodded slowly, the walls built against vulnerability slowly crumbling. "And can we also talk about what I truly want, not just what others expect?" "Absolutely," she smiled softly, a warmth spreading through her chest. "This is our moment to explore what that is together." But as they shared a tentative smile, a voice echoed in Martha's mind, a whisper of doubt, the dark shadows suggesting that undoing years of misunderstanding wouldn't happen overnight. The aim was transformational, not just revolutionary. Would they find the courage to face these hidden expectations head-on, or retreat into old patterns? The room felt charged with the possibility of change, yet shadows still lurked in the corners, waiting for another opportunity to seep into their hearts. Taking the plunge had its rewards, but would they have the persistence to wrestle with the shadows lurking just beyond their conversation's light? Daniel sat in silence, the weight of his confession hanging palpably between them. As he processed Martha's reassuring words, he felt an unfamiliar flicker of hope battling against years of self-doubt and unmet expectations. Taking a deep breath, he steeled himself. "What if I don't know what I want?" The question slipped out, revealing his vulnerability once again. It felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the unknown depths below. "We'll figure it out together," Martha replied, her eyes steady, filled with an unwavering conviction that pierced through the clouds of confusion enveloping him. Daniel nodded, but the specter of uncertainty loomed large. His mind darted to his meaningless job that felt like a dead end, the hollow applause he received for achievements that never felt fulfilling. "I've spent so much time doing what I thought was right. What if I start digging for my truth and find nothing?" "Then we dig deeper," she responded firmly. "But you won't be doing this alone. Remember, every great explorer navigates uncharted territory with a map, and I'll be your map." As she spoke, the metaphor resonated with him. He envisioned himself as an explorer, tentatively mapping a landscape he had become too comfortable to question. Could he step outside of the box he had been shoved into so many years ago? "Okay," he murmured. "Let us make a list of the things I like, things that make me feel alive." "Great idea," Martha smiled, the warmth of encouragement easing the tension that had settled in the air. "And it's not just about hobbies but anything that stirs excitement in you. Let us start with the first thing that comes to your mind." Daniel paused, allowing memories and emotions to wash over him. Images of painting flooded his mind, vivid colors splattering across a blank canvas, the exhilaration of creating something, anything, that could be purely his own. "I used to paint in high school. I really enjoyed it, but I stopped after college." "Why?" The question was simple yet forced him to confront a painful truth. "I thought it was impractical," he admitted, the weight of regret heavy in his words. "I didn't think I could make a career out of it." "But what if you could?" Martha's eyes sparked with excitement. "What if, instead of weaving your worth through someone else's expectations, you dove into your own passion?" "But I'm still so far from where I need to be professionally," he objected, feeling the familiar walls of doubt begin to close in. "Think of it like a side quest," she suggested, leaning closer, her enthusiasm infectious. "What's one small step you can take toward painting again? It doesn't have to become your career overnight." Daniel considered this. A side quest didn't need to carry the weight of expectation. It could merely be a rediscovery of joy, the thrill of using his hands, the feel of the bristles against the canvas. Maybe I could take a class or even just start painting at home again. Yes. There it is, Martha encouraged, her voice brightening. You're reclaiming a piece of yourself. Small steps can lead to big transformations. He felt the shadows lifting just slightly, curiosity sparking in his mind. I could even connect with others who share this interest. And you might discover other dimensions of who you are, she added, her admiration for him evident. This is about more than your career or expectations. It's about your authentic self. But as the conversation shifted toward excitement, a darker thought clawed at the edges of his mind. What if he failed to even take that small step? The fear of trying then failing, of stepping out of the safety of his self-imposed cage, felt as suffocating as the disappointment he'd already experienced. Martha's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. Whatever you discover, I want you to know, I'll support you. But you have to choose to support yourself too. Those words echoed within him, challenging him to rise to the occasion. He had defined himself by his failures for far too long. Maybe it was time to redefine what success represented. Together, they sat in a charged silence, a shared awareness blossoming between them. Daniel knew this was the start of a journey unlike any he had ever experienced, one where he could unveil his own desires without trepidation. Still, lurking beneath the surface was the turmoil of navigating a world outside the constraints of others' expectations. Could he face this daunting challenge without falling back into the shadows? The path was uncertain, but for the first time, Daniel felt he was ready to take that first step. As the small nudge of determination flickered inside him, a new question emerged. What truly lay ahead in the search for his authentic self? Daniel rolled the idea of painting around in his mind as he left Martha's apartment. The streets outside buzzed with life, an incessant symphony of honks and chatter. Yet, as he walked, he felt oddly detached from the urban chaos, as if he were observing a painting in a gallery rather than living it. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the silence of the room amplifying the tumult in his heart. The excitement of painting mingled with a potent fear, gnawing at him like a persistent pest. What if he picked up a brush, only to find it unyielding? What if the colors he once adored seemed dull and uninspiring now? In a moment of impulsiveness, he pulled out his phone and downloaded an app that listed local art classes. A murky cloud layered over him, the usual what-ifs threatening to take charge once more. Yet there was something thrilling about this exploration, the anticipation of stepping into a world he had neglected for too long. By morning, he had lurked on the app long enough to formulate a plan of action. He'd register for a beginner painting class. It was a small decision that felt monumental in its implications, a first step into the shadows of uncertainty. But as he finalized his choice, a panic rose within him. The idea of being judged by others left him quaking. What if I'm not good enough? He whispered to himself, the inner critic insisting on a spotlight. Ignoring the impulse to retreat, Daniel pushed through the fear, clicking the register button with a shaky finger. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him afterward. What if this was it? The beginning of a transformation he had craved but had been too scared to pursue. He took a deep breath, trying to quell the anxiety bubbling inside him. The following week, the class arrived faster than he had expected. As he approached the studio, his heartbeat quickened, a mix of excitement and anxiety. The buzz of chatter filled the room as others prepped their canvases, eager anticipation glowing on their faces. Daniel felt like an outsider, his insecurity creeping back as he wondered what these strangers would think of him. "Are you nervous?" a young woman nearby asked, sensing his hesitation. Her jovial tone lightened the atmosphere. "Just a bit," he admitted, pressing his hands against his jeans to keep them from shaking. "Trust me, everyone here feels the same way. It's all about learning and having fun. Let us make a mess together." She flashed him a reassuring smile. The instructor entered and began to outline that day's project, an abstract canvas filled with spontaneous splashes of color. Daniel's heart raced at the freedom implicit in the assignment. No right answers, just exploration, just expression. Yet, an errant thought sneaked into his mind. What if I can't let go? can't embrace the spontaneity. As he dipped the brush into the paint, he felt his fingers hesitate. "You're reclaiming a piece of yourself," Martha's words echoed in his mind. With every stroke he felt a tether pull, binding him to the artist he had once been, to the joy he had set aside for practicality. With each pass of the brush, a transformation began. The colors emerged, vivid and alive, unconfined by the limitations he placed upon himself. And in those fleeting moments, the dancing hues carried away his worries, however brief. Yet, a question lingered in the back of his mind: was this feeling sustainable, or just an ephemeral moment in a broader struggle? As the class drew to a close, Daniel sought to wrap up his piece while feeling the euphoria of creation settle in. But a whisper of doubt slithered in again as he surveyed his work. Though vibrant, it also felt jarring, a cacophony of clashing colors echoing his inner turmoil. Would it be enough for others? Would his peers applaud or pity him? He cast a hopeful glance at the instructor, searching for reassurance. The instructor, a confident figure in the world of art, approached him. "There's raw talent here," she declared, her words igniting a flame of courage within. "You have a unique voice that deserves to be heard." But as he absorbed her compliment, an unsettling thought tightened around his mind. Could he bear the weight of expectation that came with artistic ability? Could he shift his identity from a novice to someone who embraced the title of an artist? As he left the studio with his canvas under his arm, a heavy blend of optimism and trepidation swirled inside him. What would it mean to truly embrace this exploration? Could he allow himself to redefine success beyond mere external validation? The uncertainty buzzed around him, growing louder, weaving a labyrinth of thoughts that he would have to navigate, and as the sun dipped below the city skyline, his journey just began, leading him to confront the most pivotal question yet. Was he ready to embrace not only the light of his passion but also the shadows of self-doubt that lurked in the corners of his mind? The following days blurred together in a flurry of both excitement and anxiety. Each brush stroke during his painting class became a reluctant confession, peeling away layers that he had built around his emotions. Daniel's initial fear of inadequacy was a constant hum in the back of his mind, yet the class provided a space where vulnerability was not only accepted but encouraged. Each session chipped away at his uncertainty, exposing a glimmer of confidence that he had long hidden. The second class challenged him to paint a self-portrait. The very thought sent a wave of dread crashing over him. The last time he had tried to capture himself, it had felt like staring into a mirror filled with distorted reflections. Who was he, beyond the roles he played in life: son, employee, friend? Now, he had to confront the essence of his being and translate that into paint. The pressure was palpable, and yet, deep down, curiosity seeped into his fear. "Remember," the instructor said, "this is about discovery, not perfection. Make it true to you." Her words swirled in his mind, stirring something that had laid dormant. Armed with a fresh canvas, he faced the easel, demanding an honest dialogue with himself. As he began laying down the first colors, Daniel found himself grappling with defining moments of his life. The bright orange embodied his spirited youth, bursting with dreams and laughter, the deep blue his recent struggles, absorbing weight and sorrow. In the act of creating, he confronted familiar yet unsettling truths, the pressures he had imposed and the doubts that had settled like dust on his aspirations. With each shade and layer, he unearthed feelings he had stifled, the unraveling threads of a half-finished tapestry. When he stood back to view his progress, exhaustion swept over him. The self-portrait seemed chaotic, a cacophony of conflicting colors and emotions, much like his life. A lump formed in his throat as he fought against the surge of disappointment. In his frustration, he dropped the brush, anger boiling below the surface. The world he once painted with ease now revealed harsh lines that felt impossible to navigate. "Don't run from it," the instructor gently urged, picking up his abandoned brush. "Art is a process, not a finished product. What does it say to you?" He stared at the unfinished canvas, feeling an urge to articulate everything bubbling inside him. Maybe this wasn't about beauty or skill, it was about honesty, the raw, unfiltered realization of his journey. With tentative strokes, he re-engaged with the canvas, pouring fragments of himself into every mark. The vibrant chaos transformed into something unexpectedly profound. It was a portrayal of his struggle, a testament to the tension between his aspirations and fears. As he lost himself in this newfound rhythm, clarity emerged, softening the sharp edges of doubt. He wasn't just an artist striving for praise. He was a man wrestling with identity, longing to express the spectrum of his human experience. As the class concluded, there was an air of camaraderie. Fellow artists shared their stories, and for the first time, Daniel felt less alone in his vulnerabilities. Their honesty was disarming, providing a cushion against the burden of self-doubt. He realized he could be part of a community, tied not by perfection but by the journey towards acceptance. That evening, filled with a mix of hope and trepidation, Daniel gazed at his self-portrait hanging on the wall. It was more than just a painting, it marked a pivotal moment in his journey, a tangible representation of growth. Yet, the question nestled at the back of his mind refused to quiet down. What would be the next step in this exploration? Would he embrace the opportunity to share his narrative with others, or would he shrink back from potential criticism, retreating into the safety he once knew? As he turned away from the vibrant portrait, the weight of this realization settled in his chest. The moment had arrived to decide, would he commit to this path of artistic expression, risking exposure and disappointment? For the chance to honor his truth? The intensity of the question wrapped around him, pulling him into the unknown, igniting the urge to pursue not only skill but an authentic connection with his own evolving identity. And just as the threshold of a new chapter loomed before him, a flicker of anxiety flashed through his thoughts. Could he genuinely dare to be seen? Under the dim light of his small apartment, Daniel sat alone with his thoughts swirling like the whirls of color on his canvas. The self-portrait loomed large, it cast long shadows against the wall, transforming the space into a sanctuary of artistic inquiry. He thought about the words of his instructor echoing in his mind, "Art is a process, not a finished product." They felt like permission to delve deeper within himself, but he sensed that deeper exploration came with its own set of challenges. As days turned into weeks, he attended every painting class, each session becoming a step into a deeper understanding of his inner self. Yet, a stubborn pang of hesitation nagged at him. Expressing his true self on canvas felt easy, but taking that next leap to share it with anyone else turned into a psychological barricade he couldn't quite breach. Surrounded by his classmates, who poured their hearts into their work, he couldn't help but admire their bravery. How could their pain manifest into art while he still hesitated at the edge? One evening, during a session focused on abstraction, Daniel faced an unexpected dilemma. The instructor encouraged them to create a piece that represented something they were afraid of. Each brushstroke would symbolize their fear, transforming the intimidating into a source of empowerment. As he prepared to paint, he found himself paralyzed. What could he reveal that hadn't been hidden for so long? His emotions ricocheted between self-doubt and the desire for authenticity. He started with broad strokes: blacks, grays, abrupt reds. They splattered across the canvas, a chaotic reflection of his inner turmoil. Beneath that mess lay unnamed fears, fear of inadequacy, of vulnerability, and most pressingly the fear of being rejected. He grappled with the fundamental question, what if his truth wasn't enough? Wrestling with these emotions illuminated another layer of depth he hadn't anticipated. Could this not just be about painting but about dismantling barriers erected over a lifetime? Those walls felt steep and insurmountable, yet the act of painting was becoming a tangible metaphor for the journey of vulnerability he was undertaking. In an impromptu moment of inspiration, he began to carve out small symbols within the chaos: a phoenix rising from the ashes, a fragmented heart piecing itself back together, the tree of life. Each symbol whispered possibility amidst the tumult. As the class drew to a close, a shift began to settle in his chest. He realized capturing fear did not mean succumbing to it. Instead, it offered a unique chance for expression, a way to convert the intimidating into something visually beautiful. As he wiped his brush with deliberate care, Daniel felt a flicker of anticipation unfurl inside him. It was the deep-seated belief that perhaps, just perhaps, he was ready to share these creations with others, to shed the fear of judgment in favor of connecting with something larger than himself. That night, Daniel posted a photograph of his latest work on social media, encasing a vulnerable write-up about his artistic journey and the fears he had confronted through creation. When he pressed publish, his heart raced. What if he was met with silence? What if criticism rang louder than praise? The notification ping resonated like the toll of a bell, sending tremors of adrenaline through him. Feedback streamed in from unexpected places: friends, acquaintances, even strangers resonated with his authenticity. In that moment, Daniel realized he had not only taken an audacious step in his artistic journey but had also begun a transformative journey of self-acceptance, proving to himself that vulnerability could indeed forge connection. Yet, as the rush of exhilaration coursed through him, a shadow of doubt lingered at the edges. Was he ready to face the critics who might not understand? What if in sharing his truth, he exposed himself to ridicule? The moment of reckoning approached. As the phone buzzed with notifications, Daniel leaned closer to the screen, fully aware that the next move could either empower him or leave him reeling back into the comfort of silence. Would he embrace the chaotic symphony of emotions, risking everything for the sake of authenticity? Or would fear pull him away from the transformative power of his own storytelling? The threshold loomed, teetering on the brink of revelation and retreat. The next morning, Daniel's heart still fluttered from the previous night's upheaval. He opened the social media app again, scrutinizing the comments that were flooding in. Some were congratulatory, praising the raw depth of his emotions, while others treaded close to the critical line. One comment, in particular, struck him with an unsettling force: art should be less about your feelings and more about what others want to see. He lingered on these words, the weight of their implications constricting his chest. Could he be right? Was his art merely an echo of his own desires, or could it be a bridge to others, reflecting a shared human experience? The question hung in the air like a thick fog, blurring the path ahead. Determined to push through the murky uncertainty, Daniel set to work in his studio. The starkness of the blank canvas before him felt less like an invitation and more like a convergence of doubts. His only companion was the muted sound of traffic outside, a world buzzing with vitality, indifferent to his internal struggle. He picked up his brush hesitantly, trying to channel the feedback, wondering how to create something visceral yet palatable. What emerged was a whirlwind, a concoction of colors that added layers to his identity. With every stroke, he waded into uncharted waters, wrestling with the thought that perhaps his journey necessitated the embrace of contradiction. Could he create art that was both deeply personal and universally relatable? As days turned to nights, he lost track of time. The more he painted, the clearer he understood his approach. His truth was not just a solitary existence but a reflection of broader themes: loss, hope, love. Could he marry his personal narrative with collective sentiments without losing his essence? He knew he had to strike a balance. If he allowed the struggles of others to ignite his imagination, could he facilitate a conversation instead of simply pouring out his own fears? One evening, drawing on the emotions of longing and connection, he tackled a canvas that embodied a story greater than his own. As he painted, the imagery shifted from personal symbols to scenes of quiet comfort: people sharing a laugh over coffee, a couple's quiet embrace, the laughter of children playing in a park. He discovered a new rhythm in his work, one that invited both vulnerability and connectivity. With each completed piece, he began to regain confidence. The cycle of doubt still lingered at the edges, but he realized that art could be a mirror reflecting the intricacies of human relationships, the very core of connection. He found strength in the realization that sharing his vulnerability could empower others to feel safe in their own. By the time he stepped back from the latest work, a sense of accomplishment washed over him, intertwined with an exhilarating timidity. He had captured something powerful, yet the thought of sharing this with the world filled him with butterflies. In a moment of clarity, he recalled the instructor's words: art is a process, not a finished product. With renewed resolve, he prepared to share this new piece alongside a thoughtful narrative, shifting the focus from pure self-expression to a heartfelt invitation for dialogue. As he hesitated over the post button, Daniel felt the tension building again. Was he truly ready to welcome others into this new chapter of his artistic journey? The fear of judgment still lurked, but perhaps this time, he could confront it head-on, using it as a catalyst for deeper connection rather than retreat. The cascade of vibrant emotions coursed through him again, but rather than retreating, he took a deep breath and hit publish. In the aftermath, while waiting for the notifications to roll in, Daniel felt a rush of anticipation that bordered on anxiety. Had he effectively bridged his personal world with the shared human experience? Would this piece resonate, or would it spiral into misunderstanding? As the first few comments appeared, Daniel's heart raced, revealing a truth he had yet to face. This wasn't just about art, it was about learning to navigate the complex tapestry of vulnerability, criticism, and connection. And just as clarity hovered over him, a new notification appeared, pulling him back. It was a message from someone claiming to be a gallery owner interested in meeting. The moment was a genesis of unexpected possibilities, ready to unfurl before him. Would he seize this opportunity to showcase his evolution, or would fear hold him captive once more? Daniel stood at the threshold of his future, a gallery invite in hand and an urgency pulsing through him. It was a potent reminder of his metamorphosis from a hesitant boy, hiding behind layers of self-doubt, into a man who had confronted shadows to embrace his passions. The thought of sharing his work in a professional setting sent an electric thrill through him. This was a moment he had once dreamed of but never truly believed he could achieve. By summoning courage through his art, he now held a tangible proof of his journey, a transformation that went beyond mere brushstrokes. In the days leading up to the exhibition, every brushstroke felt infused with purpose. Knowing that he had something profound to offer, he meticulously prepared his pieces, each canvas a representation of the emotional battles he had fought. They were portals into moments of raw vulnerability, echoing the transformation of not just himself but of the relationships he had nurtured with those around him, especially with his mother, Martha. Martha had witnessed this journey unfold, her pride evident each time she visited his studio. Their conversations had matured into open dialogues of mutual respect and understanding. The bond that once teetered on the edge of despair had now flourished, rooted in authenticity. One evening, as they sat in her cozy living room amidst the familiar scent of chamomile tea, Martha encouraged him further. "Your paintings are not just reflections of you, Daniel, they transcend your individual experience," she asserted, her eyes gleaming with undeniable pride. "They speak to the human struggle. Your growth captures the essence of what many face." Her words ignited a fierce determination in him. He was no longer the boy dictated by others' expectations, he had grasped both his identity and the power of vulnerability. His mother's renewed belief in him transformed the emotional landscape between them, fostering a deepened sense of trust. The day of the exhibition arrived, nerves coiling tightly in the pit of his stomach. As he stepped into the gallery, a warm ambience enveloped him. Each painting drew in spectators, inviting them to unravel the stories woven through their layers. There, amidst the laughter and quiet discussions, Daniel felt the anticipation of sharing a piece of himself beyond mere performance. He approached a group admiring his self-portrait, their reactions filled with admiration, curiosity, and connection. One woman approached him, tears glistening in her eyes. "This resonates with me, your fear, your journey. It's like you're telling my story." In that moment, Daniel realized that he had achieved what he once feared. Authenticity had bridged gaps between his heart and those of others. The uncharted territory of vulnerability had invited dialogue, opening spaces for meaningful connections. Later in the evening, as he stood beside his most abstract piece, the Phoenix, a riot of colors symbolizing rebirth, he caught sight of Martha. She was engaged in conversation with a fellow artist, her laughter ringing through the air like music. It was a day of celebration not just for his work, but for their rekindled relationship. Daniel felt a surge of profound gratitude for the lessons woven through his mother's ongoing support, for the quiet strength that had nurtured his evolution. Her belief in him had transformed their dynamic, elevating both their spirits despite the circumstances they had faced. As the night progressed, a gallery owner approached him, expressing interest in showcasing his work further. This moment, this intersection of art and opportunity, felt serendipitous, a direct result of struggle turned into insight. He returned home, the gallery invite tucked safely into his bag, pulse racing. Self-doubt barely nudged at him now. He had conquered numerous fears, each triumph adding confidence to his resolve. No longer defined by others or by his failures, Daniel was ready to embrace the unknown with courage. This was not just his success, it was a shared victory with Martha, a triumph in their reaffirmed bond, a testament to love that transcended ambition. His heart swelled with hope for both the future and the people he had come to rely on, those who inspired him to strive for greatness. As he drifted into sleep, visions of blurring colors and new opportunities danced in his mind. The journey of self-discovery was just beginning, yet it felt undeniably significant, grounded in connection, resilience, and the courage to truly be seen. So now, as you reflect on Daniel's journey of transformation and empowerment, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, sharing your love for these tales of overcoming personal battles. Comment below your reactions and theories about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the importance of connection and authenticity in their journeys too.